Hi everyone, welcome back to our family history video. Last week I talked about the Rollins family, and I decided that this week I'd pull all these families together so that you would know how these families all come. We've got the Rollins family, the Beckstead family, the Nelson family, and the Patten family that all come together on my mother's line. And I want to talk about them a little bit today. Some of those that I just kind of maybe flew over a little bit. We've got George and Mary Jane Nelson. We talked about them quite a bit. I think that you know them now, maybe a little better. Then we go to George Washington Patten and Lily and Sophia Beckstead Patten. And they spend more time in Old Mexico than George and Mary Jane did. They stayed there quite a while and came back and forth, traveling by wagon and traveling by train. Lily and Sophia did several trips from Payson to Dublin, and she tells about her travels a little bit. My mother absolutely idolized her grandmother, Lily and Sophia Beckstead Patten. Lily and Sophia and George Washington are the parents of Charles Henry Patten, my mother's father, who marries Ida Susanna Hurst. And I'm going to talk about them in other weeks as we get closer. The Becksteads, we have Sidney Marcus Beckstead. I mentioned him a little bit when we were doing the Beckstead line. He and his wife, Anne Rollins, were such good people. They only had daughters. They lived in several places in Utah. He was asked to go back and help the people at Winter Quarters come across the plains, get ready. And one trip he made, he was accidentally shot, Sidney Marcus, and was killed and is buried there in Winter Quarters. He does not have a headstone that I've been able to find. His mother stayed in Nebraska, so he came to Utah with an uncle. And he met Lily and Sophia, and they were married. And now he married Anne Rollins, I'm sorry. Anne Rollins was left a widow. Some of her children were fairly grown, but some were younger. She became the plural wife of Edward Killick Robbins. He evidently was a very good man. I don't know a lot about him, but he was very kind to Anne Sophia Rollins Beckstead and her children. They had great love for him. They moved down to Sevier County, Utah, and they started a town which is called Annabella, named after his two wives, Anne and Isabella. There's quite a little history about Annabella, Utah. It's not a very big place, but there are wonderful markers for Anne, Sophia, Isabella, and Edward Killick Roberts in the cemetery. I have pictures of them. And we have pictures of Anne and her siblings. We have pictures of her and her children. And as I said, her daughter, Lillian Sophia, married George Washington Patten. I want to tell you a little bit about what I learned this week about the Patten family. If you remember, William Cornwall Patten and his mother, Anne Patten, heard the prophet Joseph Smith speak in Philadelphia. Well, I since have found out that the prophet was there and he spoke several times in Philadelphia in December and early January of 1839 and 40. Anne and her son William were baptized in 1840 and then later came to Nauvoo. So it's been a great blessing to me to think about the prophet speaking to them and them becoming converted through the Spirit with him.